Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always. What are we looking at today?
Today, we're going to be exploring something called the World House Games.
World House Games.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just imagine this as a global competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where playing games actually helps us tackle things like
Wow.
climate change and even work towards a more peaceful world.
So it's like the Olympics, but for like making the world a better place.
Yeah, kind of like that. So the source material we're using is actually a guidebook for facilitators of these games,
Okay.
specifically for the March 2025 World House Games.
Wow. So this is happening soon.
Yeah, coming right up and get this. It's all about earning something called points for the Earth.
Points for the Earth. Okay. That sounds interesting.
Right. So what do you think about that?
Well, it sounds like they're trying to, gamify positive actions, which I think could be really effective,
Mm-hmm.
to get people motivated.
Yeah.
But I am kind of curious to know more about how these points are earned
Yeah.
and like what you can do with them.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So let's kind of unpack this a little bit.
Okay.
So the guidebook mentions something called the
Okay.
Martin Luther King Jr. World House.
Okay.
And this is being built in Alachua County, Florida.
The World House.
Yeah.
Okay. What is that? Is it like a headquarters for the games?
Well, you can think of it as like a physical space
Okay.
dedicated to Dr. King's vision, right? Of a world where everyone lives together in peace.
Wow.
And the really cool part is that the games are directly tied to this project.
Okay.
It's not just about
Right.
talking the talk. It's about bringing this vision to life through global collaboration.
Wow, that's a really powerful connection.
Yeah.
So it's not just like an abstract competition.
Right.
It's like grounded in a real-world initiative.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's look at the structure of the games themselves.
Okay.
They're broken down month by month, it seems like.
Okay.
And each month is dedicated to a specific global challenge.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it provides a framework and keeps things focused.
Exactly. So this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Okay.
The guidebook outlines all these creative games.
Okay.
For example, in March, there's the Eco Chase Challenge and a Global Goals Treasure Hunt.
Eco Chase and Global Goals Treasure Hunt.
Yeah, and so in this, you earn points for finding people who are actually living the global goals for 2030.
So like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
But instead of finding objects, you're like finding people
Yeah.
who are embodying those goals.
Yeah.
Like sustainability, equality, all that.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
So it makes you wonder, though, what does living the global goals actually look like in practice?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right.
It could be, I don't know, anything from reducing your own personal carbon footprint
Mm-hmm.
to like advocating for social justice.
Right.
And maybe it encourages people to like think about their own actions
Yeah.
and how they kind of align with the goals.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even inspire them to make changes in their own lives.
Absolutely. And so it seems like the games are designed not just for entertainment,
Right.
but also for raising awareness
Right.
and showcasing these real-world solutions that are already in action.
Exactly. And it's like subtly nudging people toward positive action
Mm-hmm.
by making it fun and engaging.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Then in April, for Earth Day, there's the Tree of Life Challenge.
Tree of Life, okay.
And so you might be thinking, how can a game really encourage caring for all life,
Yeah.
right?
That's a big concept.
It is. And this challenge might involve things like
Mhm.
planting trees,
Mhm.
reducing your carbon footprint,
Okay.
or even just learning about endangered species.
Okay, I see.
So it's about making those connections more tangible
Yeah.
and rewarding, too.
Yeah, so by earning points for those actions, they're essentially like,
Yeah,
assigning value to those things through
Yes.
environmental stewardship.
precisely. And it ties back to that idea of points for the Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not just playing for yourself, you're
Right.
playing for the planet.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah.
Creates a sense of like collective responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds us that like our actions have
Yeah.
a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not all serious business, though. In July, things get really interesting with the Connected Dance Challenge.
Connected Dance Challenge. Okay, what is that?
So imagine this. People from all over the world participating in this giant virtual dance party.
Wow.
And then they create a collaborative video.
Oh, cool.
So it's all about connecting through music and movement,
Oh.
regardless of language or cultural barriers.
I love that. It's like a beautiful expression of,
Yeah.
our shared humanity.
Music definitely has this power to bring people together, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Then in September, we have climate chess.
Climate chess.
Okay,
Okay.
so instead of capturing pieces, they're
Okay.
strategically allocating resources to address climate change.
So it's like they're gamifying a complex issue, right? To
Yeah,
encourage, like, thinking strategically
yeah,
about real problems.
exactly.
It's brilliant, actually. I mean, it's a way to kind of, like,
Yeah,
simulate the challenges and
yeah.
the trade-offs involved in actually doing that in climate action.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be really valuable, I think, for educating people
Right.
about how complex this issue really is,
Yes.
but in a fun and interactive way.
Exactly. So instead of just reading about climate change, you're actively engaging with it
Yeah.
and trying to find solutions.
And, potentially learning from mistakes,
Yeah,
but in a safe environment, which is crucial for something like climate change.
absolutely. It seems like they're trying to create a space where people can experiment,
Yeah.
learn, and collaborate to find solutions.
Yeah. And it's not just about, like, playing games in isolation either.
Yeah.
The guidebook also mentions initiatives like
Yeah.
trends in grassroots, global organizing.
Right. So it's capturing and sharing these stories of real people who are
Mhm.
making a difference, right?
Okay.
They're inviting articles and videos for a quarterly e-magazine.
Cool.
So think of it as like a platform for amplifying those voices and inspiring others to take action.
Yeah, the documentation aspect is important.
Yeah.
It adds depth.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just like competition and points.
Right.
It's like showcasing those real human stories
Mm-hmm.
behind the challenges and celebrating the people working
Yes.
towards solutions.
One thing that struck me was how they integrated these activities with real-world initiatives,
Yeah,
like the Climate Action Tracker
Mhm.
and the Earth Charter.
that's crucial.
Yeah.
Grounding the games in the real world in real data and frameworks.
Yeah.
They move beyond just entertainment
Mm-hmm.
and become like catalysts for meaningful change.
Exactly. So they're bridging the gap between that virtual engagement
Right.
and tangible action. It's like a statement. Like, this isn't just a game. It's
Yeah.
about making a difference.
It's a powerful way to connect the dots
Mm-hmm.
between our actions and the impact.
And speaking of impact,
Okay?
the guidebook lays out some pretty ambitious goals,
Okay. Like what?
like ending war by 2045
Wow.
and reversing global warming by 2050.
Okay. Big goals.
So I'm curious to get your thoughts on how feasible these targets actually are.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge like the scale of these challenges, right?
Yeah.
Ending war and reversing global warming. These require like systemic changes
Right.
that go way beyond just
Yeah.
any one initiative,
Right.
no matter how good the intentions are.
So while the games can contribute by raising awareness, inspiring action, and fostering collaboration,
Yeah,
it's going to take a much bigger effort to actually achieve these goals.
absolutely. It needs a collective effort from
Yeah.
individuals, governments, organizations,
Yeah.
like everyone. Really,
Everyone,
really.
it's a good reminder that, yeah, individual actions are super important, but they
Mhm.
need to be coupled with systemic change
Yes.
to really create that lasting impact.
Yeah,
But I think the World House Games can play a role in pushing for that change.
I agree. Yeah. They could be a valuable tool, I think, for
Mhm.
sparking conversations,
Mhm.
building connections, and mobilizing people
Yeah.
around these issues.
It's like a stepping stone or a catalyst for
Yeah.
a larger movement towards a more sustainable and peaceful world.
Exactly. It's like creating a ripple effect
Yeah.
that goes way beyond just the games themselves.
Okay, I want to talk about another really cool element, music.
Okay?
So the guidebook mentions this piece called World White House by James Oliverio,
Okay?
and there's even a musical World House Challenge
Wow.
planned for January 2026.
Wow. I'm not surprised they're incorporating music.
Yeah.
It's got this unique ability, to
Yeah.
transcend boundaries
Yeah.
and evoke emotions.
And inspire action.
Yes.
A universal language
Yeah.
that can really connect people from all walks of life.
Absolutely. So by incorporating music into the World House Games, they're kind of like
Yeah.
tapping into that power
Yeah.
to foster unity and inspire change.
And speaking of unity, the guidebook also highlights the importance of collaboration.
Okay?
They have this initiative called Welcome to WEE, which connects local projects in Alachua County
Uh-huh.
with global change makers.
Okay.
So they're weaving together those local and global efforts
Yeah.
to emphasize that we're all interconnected.
It's a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that no one's alone.
Right.
Okay.
And it seems like they're really trying to empower individuals and communities to kind of take ownership and be part of the solution.
Yes, it's like fostering a sense of agency, right?
Yeah.
Reminding people that they have the power
Mm-hmm.
to make a difference.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah, we have.
But there's still so much more to explore
Okay.
in this guidebook.
I'm intrigued to see what else they've got.
Let's take a quick break and then we'll dive back in and unpack even more of these fascinating details.
Sounds good. So we talked about how the World House Games use all these like innovative games to tackle, global challenges. But what about their approach to peace building?
That's a great point, and it's a huge part of their overall vision. It aligns perfectly with, Dr. King's dream of a world without violence and conflict.
Exactly. And the guidebook actually dedicates several months to peace building initiatives.
Okay.
For example, in August, which focuses on disarmament and nonviolence, they have this initiative called Peace is the Wholeness.
When I first read about that one, I was a little confused.
Yeah.
What does wholeness have to do with peace?
Well, think of it this way. True peace isn't just the absence of war. It's about, fostering these right relationships with
Right.
yourself, with other people, with different cultures,
Okay.
with nature, even recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay.
It's a holistic approach, I think.
That makes so much more sense. So it's not just about ending conflict. It's about creating this positives and harmonious state of being on like a global scale.
Exactly.
And then in November, for Armistice Day, they have a Peace Walk Through Time event.
Peace Walk Through Time. Okay.
Yeah. What exactly does that involve?
Well, it's all about exploring possible peaceful solutions to global conflicts.
Okay.
So participants are encouraged to, like, research historical conflicts and imagine alternative outcomes
Okay.
that prioritize things like dialogue and understanding.
So it's like a thought experiment but with a real-world purpose.
Exactly. It's challenging that idea that war is inevitable and exploring, other approaches to conflict resolution.
And it's not just hypothetical either, right? They have that ambitious goal of having the UN declare an end to war as a means of resolving international disputes by 2045.
Yeah, which coincides with the UN's 100th anniversary.
Right.
It's a bold vision, but it kind of speaks to the potential that they see these games.
Yeah.
They're not just trying to, make the world a little bit better.
Right.
They're aiming for, a fundamental shift.
In how we approach conflict.
Yeah.
It is inspiring to see them take on such a monumental challenge.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, how realistic is that goal?
Well, I mean, ending war altogether is obviously incredibly complex. It refers, addressing those root causes of conflict, like poverty, inequality, or political instability.
And changing those deeply ingrained cultural beliefs and systems.
Right, exactly.
It's a huge undertaking.
It is, but I think the World House Games can play a valuable role in at least pushing us toward that goal.
Okay.
By fostering dialogue and understanding, empathy between people from different cultures. You're laying the groundwork, at least for a more peaceful future.
It's like they're planting seeds of peace that could blossom into something truly transformative.
Exactly. And even if they don't achieve that ultimate goal by 2045, every step, I think, towards a more peaceful world is a victory in itself.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's about progress, not perfection. Speaking of progress, the guidebook also emphasizes individual empowerment and community involvement.
That's right.
So it's not just a top-down initiative. It's designed to be like a grassroots movement, empowering individuals and communities to take ownership and contribute their own skills and perspectives.
Exactly.
I love that. It makes it feel much more accessible and inclusive. It's like, hey, you don't have to be a world leader or a CEO to make a difference.
You can start right where you are.
You can start right where you are.
With what you have.
Exactly.
And the guidebook actually gives you some guidance.
Does it?
Yeah, on how to get involved.
Okay.
Like forming local teams, organizing events.
Okay.
Connecting with other groups, working on those same goals.
So it's like a toolkit for positive change.
Yeah, like a toolkit.
And they stress the importance of diversity and representation.
Yes.
Right? Ensuring that voices from all corners of the world are heard and valued.
Absolutely. You want people from all walks of life, different backgrounds, cultures, socioeconomic levels, to feel empowered to participate.
That's crucial. It's about creating a truly global movement that reflects that richness and diversity of our world.
And that sense of community is essential for tackling these complex global challenges.
Yeah.
No one person or group
has all the answers.
We need to work together.
Yeah.
Learn from each other. Support each other.
It's like this giant global brainstorming session.
Yeah.
But instead of sitting around a table, we're playing games and having fun.
Exactly. And in the process, we're generating ideas, solutions, and that shared sense of purpose.
It's a powerful model for positive change.
It is.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the guidebook kind of delves into this points for the Earth system.
Right.
Could you explain how that works in a little more detail? I'm curious to know how those points are tracked and what they can be used for.
Well, it seems like they're tracked through this virtual platform.
Okay.
They call it the Climate Collaboratory in Space.
Climate Collaboratory in Space. That sounds pretty futuristic.
I know, right? It's all very high-tech.
Okay.
Apparently, the scoreboard is featured in the Climate Conversation show throughout the year, which is broadcast from this virtual space station.
Wow.
They're really trying to make it visually engaging and interactive, to keep people motivated and informed about their progress.
That's awesome. I can see how that would appeal to, a younger generation that's used to digital platforms and these gamified experiences.
Exactly.
It's a clever way to make tracking progress fun and engaging.
And it really emphasizes that collaborative nature.
Yeah.
You're not just competing against other people or teams.
Yeah.
You're working together.
To rack up those points for the Earth. It's like we're all on the same team, right? Playing for the same goal.
Right.
A healthier, more sustainable planet.
Exactly. And it's not just about bragging rights either.
Right.
They're exploring ways to link those points to real-world impact.
Like what? Could you give us some examples?
So, for example, you've been diligently playing these games, making sustainable choices, racking up those points. You could use those points to contribute to, like, a reforestation project in the Amazon.
Wow, that's awesome.
Or maybe support a community garden in your own city.
So your virtual actions are having this direct impact on real-world projects.
Yeah, it's almost like...
It's like this micro-philanthropy platform built into the game.
Exactly, and it goes beyond just donating points.
Okay.
They're also exploring ways to connect players with, volunteer opportunities, advocacy campaigns, educational resources related to the themes.
So it's not just about passive participation, it's about empowering those players to become active agents of change in their own communities.
Fostering that sense of ownership.
And beyond responsibility.
Now, throughout this deep dive, we've talked a lot about the positive aspects of the
World House games, the innovative games, those ambitious goals, the focus on collaboration and community building.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to acknowledge some potential challenges and limitations.
You're absolutely right. No initiative is perfect.
Right.
And the World House games will for sure face their share of obstacles.
What are some of the potential roadblocks that you foresee?
Well, one will be ensuring accessibility and inclusivity. The games rely a lot on technology and internet access, which can be a barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah. In developing countries or underserved communities,
absolutely,
that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
They need to find ways to bridge that digital divide and make sure these games are accessible to everyone, regardless of their location or socioeconomic status.
Another challenge will be maintaining engagement and momentum over time.
It's easy to get people excited about something new, but keeping them motivated and involved over the long haul,
that's the hard part,
is much harder.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with these complex global challenges that won't have easy solutions.
Absolutely. It requires sustained effort, patience, and a willingness to adapt and evolve.
So it's like they're building the plane while they're flying it.
That's like the right analogy.
Constantly iterating and learning from their experiences.
And that brings us to another potential challenge.
Okay.
Measuring impact.
Yeah. How do you measure that?
Right.
It's one thing to track points, engagement metrics, but it's a lot harder to assess the real-world impact.
How do you measure, like, increased global awareness?
Well, like a shift in attitude towards peace and sustainability.
Those are complex and nuanced changes that can be difficult to quantify.
Yeah, and I think that's where the guidebook acknowledges the need for ongoing evaluation and research.
Yeah, they're committed to tracking the impact of the games, both quantitatively and qualitatively, and using that data to inform their future strategies.
So it's not just about launching this grand initiative and hoping for the best.
Yeah, it's about continuous learning, adaptation, improvement.
And that commitment to transparency and accountability is crucial for building trust
Absolutely.
with all the players, the partners, and the funders.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive into the World House Games has been incredibly enlightening.
It has.
I've learned so much about this initiative and its potential to address these really pressing challenges of our time. So what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What do you hope they'll walk away with after this deep dive?
I think the most important message is that we don't have to wait for governments or institutions
to solve these problems.
We can all be part of the solution. And initiatives like the World House Games offer a fun and engaging way to get involved.
Whether it's participating in the games, supporting organizations working towards similar goals, or just simply spreading awareness. There are countless ways to contribute.
Absolutely. And I would challenge our listeners to think about this.
Okay.
Could something like the World House Games actually work?
It's a good question.
What would it take for an initiative like this to truly make a difference?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe some of our listeners will be inspired to get involved and help make this vision a reality.
I hope so.
So what would you say is the key takeaway for our listeners?
I would say the most important thing to remember is we don't have to wait for governments or institutions to act.
We can be part of the solution.
We can all be part of it.
And initiatives like the World House Games offer a really fun and engaging way to get involved.
Whether it's playing the games, supporting organizations, spreading awareness, there are so many ways.
It contributes.
And I would challenge our listeners to think about this.
Okay.
Could something like this actually work?
Yeah.
What would it take?
What would it take
to make it truly successful?
That is the question.
It is.
And who knows, maybe some of our listeners will be inspired to get involved.
And make it happen.
Yeah, make this vision a reality.
Well, I think we've covered it all.
We have. We've covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground.
A huge thank you to you for sharing your insights today.
Thanks for having me.
And to all of our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the World House Games.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
We encourage you to check it out and see if it's something you want to be a part of.